Hey everybody, hope you're all doing good. Today, have a bit of a fun one. We're going to be taking a look at the Gecko linear switches from Kinetic Labs. When I heard about the switches themselves, as well as the theming, of course, I was really excited to try and get my hands on these and give them a go. So these are one of Kinetic Labs' animal-themed line of switches. They've got Huskies, penguins, salmon, and hippos. So Gecko is the newest member of their animal lineup of switches. These are linear switches. They come with dampeners. You can see they come in a really nice colorway and... oh, wait. Hold on, wrong Gecko. Alright, here we go. That's the right Gecko. So they come in these neat little resealable bags, really convenient. It's got the name right on there if you want to store it away in storage. It makes it real easy. And it even comes with a neat little sticker. But yeah, if that's your sort of thing, that's a neat little freebie that comes with them. So the colorway on these switches is pretty cool. It's a really dark green housing with a mint green stem. The stem is palm. This has become really popular lately. The top housing is polycarbonate and the bottom housing is nylon. There is a cutout for RGB, so if you're putting it on a keyboard that has RGB, it will technically work with it. However, it's not really made for RGB, so you'll still get that shine through. So you can use these with a keyboard that has LEDs. Just realize that this isn't really going to be as fantastic looking as something with a transparent body if you're using a keyboard and you really enjoy RGB. So this is a linear switch, which means there's no tactile bump. It's just up and down, back and forth, straight shooter. That's it. Did I get that right? Yeah. 54, 57.5. So this is a little bit on the heavier side for switches. It's 54 gram actuation and 57.5 gram for total bottom out. Now, when it comes to linear switches, almost 9 times out of 10, you're gonna want to have a lube switch. It just feels and sounds that much nicer. But Gateron pre-lubes these from the factory, and I find that it's pretty consistent, and it's a really nice even coat. I don't see any on the inner housings. It looks like it's really mainly just on the stem, but it's a pretty good lube job there. You can also see in the close-ups these silicone dampeners, and that is what's going to make these silent switches. The softer silicone is going to impact the bottom housing and the top housing when it bottoms out and tops out, and that reduces the amount of vibration in the housing, reducing the overall sound. These are 5-pin switches, which means that you'll have to clip off the extra support pins if you're using these in a PCB that only has 3-pin support. I personally do prefer the 5-pin when possible, just because I feel like it adds a little bit more stability to that switch in the keyboard. Now, for how these switches feel, the lube job is really good, really consistent, really smooth. There's no scratchiness, no spring ping that I can hear at all, even when I'm like slapping the crap out of these things. No spring ping, it sounds really nice. Again, very smooth, no scratchiness, and I find that is very consistent through all the switches. I got a pack of 110, and from the ones that I put in my keyboard, I didn't really notice any scratchiness or inconsistencies. Now, these are fairly stable switches as well. There's not too much up and down or left and right wobble on these switches once they're put into the keyboard, especially if you're keeping all 5 pins. There's also no wobble or inconsistencies in the housing of the switch either. I'm gonna go ahead and put these into a GMMK Pro with the polycarbonate plate. And for comparison, we're gonna be using HK Gaming Pro Lake Blues, which are another heavier side linear switch that also come pre-lubed, fairly convenient in that way as well. Okay, now you know what they sound like. Let's give these a Gecko grade since, you know, they're Gecko switches. Okay, so for gaming use, I give the Gecko switches a 7 out of 10. These are regular mechanical switches, which means you're missing out on the low latency that you would get with an optical switch. And the actuation point is at 2 millimeters. I confirmed with Kinetic Labs directly, which means that it's midway through the keystroke. For a lot of gamers, they want that actuation point a little bit higher so that it reacts faster to the actual keystroke. But there are a lot of pros to consider with these switches for people who are gaming. First off, they come pre-lubed, so you're gonna have a very pleasant experience out of the box. And another thing to consider is that when you're gaming, especially you're doing something competitive, a lot of times communication is gonna be a big part of who wins and loses a match. And if you've got a keyboard that's like, it's gonna get a little bit distracting. So having silent switches that sound more like this, it's way easier to communicate important game information to your teammates. So you just kind of have to prioritize what you want from the keyboard. For everyday use, I give these switches a 10 out of 10. And this one is honestly pretty straightforward. Comes in several pack sizes. You don't have to mod it if you don't want to. It's a nice medium heavyweight switch, so you're not going to be accidentally mistyping as much. And with that middle of the road actuation point, that also helps with preventing mistyping as well. If you're just typing up like an essay, or if you're typing up a resume, doing professional work, it just is a lot more pleasant to type on in my experience than super lightweight switches with a high actuation point. And again, those silencers mean that you're not going to make your roommates or your family members kind of hate it when you're on the computer. So that's a big plus too. And I do also want to say the silicone dampening on these is pleasantly like firm. When I did that other review on the Huntsman Mini, those have silent switches as well. But another thing was that they felt kind of mushy. I don't know like if it's a different type of silicone or exactly what's going on here, but it doesn't feel super mushy when you bottom out. It's still a pretty firm feel, and I actually prefer that more firm typing experience. Now when it comes to cost, I give these a 7 out of 10. These aren't like overly budget switches, like you're not getting like a crazy bang for your buck, but for what you get out of the bag, this is very convenient, and it's definitely worth the asking price of 60 cents per switch. And that price per switch stays consistent between each size pack. It doesn't matter if you get them in bulk, it's still going to be 60 cents per switch. But these are silenced, they have those dampeners, they're pre-lubed and well lubed. You're not going to really need to film these because the housing is just very sturdy. There's no housing wobble on these at all, so you don't have to use extra materials to lube these guys or to film these guys. And for comparison, like something like Durox linear switches that are also silenced and pre-lubed, those can be like 67 cents to 70 cents per switch. And then there's something like Kale Box Pinks, which are like 77 cents per switch. So these are not a bad deal at all, but it's also not like budget. So it's a good price, but not like anything out of the ordinary. Now for my personal opinion, and yes, this is where I get to have my bias, this is a 10 out of 10. Obviously because green's my favorite color. Also the whole gecko thing, you know, doesn't hurt either. Time is really valuable, and it's hard to put a monetary value to time. And the fact that you get a nice, well-lubed switch that doesn't need any extra modding out of the box is super convenient, especially when keyboards already take up a ton of time. You're gonna wanna put foam in there, fix the stabilizers, balance the stabilizers. So if you can get switches that already take out half the work, that's super convenient. And it's, again, time is valuable, and just being able to get the switches and just put them in, super nice. They've got a pleasant feel, they're fun to type on, and when I took them in game and played with them, I didn't feel overly fatigued from the weight of the switches. I really like these. There's not a whole lot else to ask of it. So altogether, the Gecko linear switches from Kinetic Labs, I give these guys a overall grade of 8.5 out of 10. These are just really nice linears out of the bag. They're good to go, they feel nice, they work great for general use, everyday gaming. You can use these for anything, and they're not going to be super loud. They have a nice sound profile, personally, in my opinion. I really like these. Good job, Kinetic Labs. You can get these switches on their main website. I don't have like an affiliate link or anything. I bought these with my own money. I'm not sponsored. I've never been sponsored by anybody. But anyway, you guys take care. God bless. And I'll see you on the next one, okay? Later.